Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hi, this is Nick Anastasiou, story editor on Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Bad Batch. And you are listening to Aggressive Negotiations.
Hello and welcome to Aggressive Negotiations. That's right, that slice of Star Wars heaven that you know you just can't get enough of. And coming at you again, live from Aldani. Let's just say the fireworks are about to begin. And I am just one of your hosts, Matthew Rushing. And with me, as he is, every single episode, the one, the only, curmudgeoned Jedi Master, John Mills, who apparently doesn't like fun or good shows.
He does like trolling you, though, because it's an incredibly easy thing to do.
This is true.
And
it is.
Honestly,
it's not easy, but I mean, it's possible.
I think it would be
possible.
It's
possible.
It was considered to be one of my Jedi trials, but then I proved how easily I could do it, and Yoda was like, "No, do something harder, you must." And here we are.
Oh, man. Well, we're excited to be here. Of course, before we get started, you can always find what we're doing here all over the place on social media. We're at the Jedi Masters on X, Twitter, as well as the entire network at Join Nerd Party. We're on Instagram at The Nerd Party, on Facebook at facebook.com/Nerd Party. You can also support the show by giving us a star rating and review. We would really appreciate that. It really actually helps the show grow. And if you like our podcast, maybe share it with a friend. Be like, hey, do you like Star Wars? Man, I've got a podcast for you. You need to be listening to Aggressive Negotiations. Do stuff like that. Word of mouth is the best way to grow a podcast. And last but not least, just thank you for listening. We really appreciate it. So, John, this season of Andor, we have been building to different parts of the story arc. And, of course, this is kind of the closing bit for this heist that we have on Aldani with the episode The Eye. And so, first and foremost, I just wanted to get your just kind of general impressions of this episode as we kind of bring this part of the arc to a close.
Well, that feels like I'm giving away too much at the beginning. I mean, I want people to stick around for the end of the conversation as well. Obviously, Matt.
It's true.
That's the thing that makes sense. I went into this episode. Everybody knows. Everybody, come on. Tell me you listened to the last two episodes. You know where I was. You know that I really enjoyed the fourth one. Felt there were opportunities for improvement in the second one. Matt and I felt strangely similar about the second part of this arc, and we wound up in very similar places. It's just I came at it from a different angle.
Yeah,
that's the way it is.
Which we do.
It happens.
Yeah.
So basically, I came into this one hopeful because I was like, I remember liking this episode, but I also remembered that there were certain points where I was like, it felt like it could have just been quicker at the end. So I was curious to see if my opinion stayed there, because we all know I've been really sort of hard on the pacing of the episodes. And I also couldn't remember if we spent too much time with Cyril.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And thankfully he's not even in this episode. So
yeah, strangely, it seems to be to the episode's benefit that he wasn't. Because the absence of Cyril immediately made the episode better, in my opinion. I was like,
agreed.
I'm not cutting over to Cyril.
Agreed.
This is acceptable to me. I will meet this episode on its own terms, therefore. So
so I do want to add, so that's a great thing, so you don't end up giving too much away here. But I did want to ask you, because this episode is incredibly focused in the sense that we spend almost the entire episode on Aldani, and we are, making everything finally happen, right? All that they've been planning for in the last couple of episodes comes to fruition here. We're not going to leave you waiting anymore. And we're also, like I said, we're not going to spend time in other places until basically the climax of this major event, this major heist, this first incredible movement of the rebellion hits. And once that finally happens, then we'll kind of split over to like Mon Mothma and Luthen and get their kind of reactions as they hear this thing that they've been waiting to hear has actually happened. And so how did you feel like that then worked for the episode? Because I know you've been kind of frustrated, as you mentioned, with some of the editing choices where we've kind of been bouncing around. And this episode, that's one of the things it doesn't do. It does not bounce around.
It doesn't. It's very focused, and I think that it really is to the director is Susanna White here, and I think that she really brings that focus that I've been looking for. We all know that I have a weird thing about sequels, and I blame George Lucas for this. Because and Steven Spielberg. No, seriously. Because if you look at the Star Wars movies, the first 6, and you look at the Indiana Jones movies, you don't have to have seen one that came before to get totally what's going on. I'm big about that. I should be able to plug in, pick up at any point.
Yes, you are very much about that.
And this episode absolutely passes that test. Susanna White takes the script, and the script is very focused, but additionally, this is a show... Like, this is an episode where it's like, we are not going to mess around with what we need to show you. And everything is firing here from the get-go toward that one goal, that ending goal. And I think that especially one of the things that it allows it to do that's really to its benefit is it gives the actor's name is Stanley Townsend, who plays the Commandant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That character, the direction and the way that he is worked into the story is beyond exactly right. And that is the little nudge for this episode. And that's what everybody on the crew deserves credit for. Cast and crew is Stanley Townsend is given the opportunity to be that sort of a inept bureaucratic evil that exists in a system like this.
Yeah.
You can tell that had it been the Republic, had it been the New Republic, had it been the Empire, had it been the Yuuzhan Vong in charge, had it been anybody in charge, this guy was simply, this is his job, this is what he's going to do. He doesn't like it any more than anybody else, but this is the system. He's there, right? I'm just doing my job. Like, he's not a cruel person. He's a guy who's just like, look, this is just the way the world is. This is what I'm going to do. And it really illustrates everything that I think Lucas himself would have been big about, which is the banality of evil. That it's easy to exist in a system where you don't think too deeply about what's going on.
Sure.
And this is my job. This is what I do. You know what? I didn't do anything bad to the chieftain. I don't like him. I'm talking bad about him behind closed doors, but I'm not mean to his face. I do what I'm supposed to do. That's fine. That's enough. And it's really... I think that the focus is what allows the episode to bring that to the forefront.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that he really is kind of a linchpin character for this series. And part of that is because of the way in which he brings into focus the very thing that they are fighting against, right? Which is... like you said, it's not people who are overtly evil in the sense that they are, they're just willing and ready to kind of like murder everybody in their path, right? This is the type of person who has such a superiority complex about everybody being less than him. He looks down on these people. Right. He, like you said, he's making fun of them. He sees himself as being superior to them in every single way. And so do all of the other officers there. Every single one of them looks on these people and just thinks they're kind of backwater, worthless people. To me, I'm so glad that you brought that up because it is that type of evil where, because of the way in which Palpatine runs the Empire, it encourages people to act like this, right? Which is to get yours. And in doing so, you are willing to just step over anyone and step on anyone to get what you want, right? I mean, his whole goal is to get off this backwater planet because he doesn't feel appreciated enough, right? And that's even when and then he treats his wife and his son kind of the same way he treats everybody else. And then he makes them feel bad for saying, when he's like, don't you want off this planet? Like, it's like you said, it's so well performed because he does it so effortlessly that it just kind of makes your skin crawl as you're watching him.
But at the same time, you get the opportunity to see him as, again, he's a guy who just doesn't think about it.
No, he doesn't think. Yeah, he just thinks about himself. Yes.
But that's exactly the trap that everybody in the everyday world falls into.
Yes.
My career,
yes,
my advancement. The system doesn't work. Who cares? I'm just going to get mine. All I can do is control what's in the world around me. To an extent, that is all you can control. But then you don't think about the atrocity of the company you're working for that preys on the innocent, or the chemical waste of the plant that you work at, because what are you going to do about it? You're going to go up to your boss and get fired, or in the case of a guy in the Empire, you're going to get shot. You're going to lose your position.
Yes.
That is exactly how a system supports itself. And, it's easy to run off and criticize any system like that, but we know what's powering the Empire. We know that basically Satan himself is at the top of this chain.
Yeah, exactly.
But this guy isn't thinking about that. He's never going to meet the Emperor. He doesn't know what's going on.
Nope.
He doesn't care. He just wants to get off.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it creates a really thoughtful piece to the episode, up to and including the point where the guy suddenly realizes that his trusted lieutenant has betrayed him. And he has a heart attack. It's just, it's too much for him, because this is just not what he signed up for. He didn't commit the specific atrocity. The system did it. What am I going to do about it? And the thing is, there's an interesting contrast, because Richard Katz, who plays the Colonel, he is the guy who is he does a really good job of subtly playing the guy who is all in on it, who gets it. Like, it's hard to describe because he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but the fact that he pulls the gun, he's in on it, right? The commandant's like, hey guys, leave me alone. I don't know what I'm doing here. I just work here. What are you doing? The Colonel is the one that's like, I'll kill all of you, even though he knows it's dumb to try to pull that gun. It's the idiot's maneuver right there. And I think that is, in all honesty, what elevates the episode. It's very easy for people to say, oh, well, the Eye or the Chieftain, played great by David Heyman. The Chieftain is what elevates it, or the effects, or the escape, or the heist, or anything like that. No, it's these two characters are what elevates this episode.
Well, in talking about them, and I'm so glad that you kind of keyed in to them in this part of the episode, because the thing I was really, really struck by was the conversation that the Commandant and he are having, and the Commandant and this engineer who are visiting. And he's describing the way in which they are slowly and methodically taking away everything from these people without them even realizing that it's happening to them, right? And what it showed me is the way in which the Empire has slowly but surely been taking away people's desire for religion and replacing it with dependence on the state.
Yes, exactly right.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I mean, and what I find to be so incredible about this is that you think about the depth here then that Lucas's universe is allowing these writers to be able to talk about here. It's something that we've seen play out. I mean, and Gilroy talked about this in a recent interview. He's like, look, I don't want this show to be something that anybody goes, oh, that's this in our current political world. He's like, I'm rooting this in massive historical movements from history, from ancient history, the same way that Lucas was, right?
Exactly.
But when you think about that idea, right, is that in our in the most recent history that we've seen, what are the countries that have done this? They have tried to remove everything from a person, but complete dependence on the state. And it's kind of a terrifying thing. And so I absolutely love that is what this episode is doing. I think it's incredibly smart. The beauty of that, though, was that I was realizing that this episode was that then microcosm of the macro that's been happening now for this is almost 15 years of the Empire. And this has been their modus operandi on every single planet.
But the important thing to remember is that the Republic put all of this machinery in place. It's just the Emperor knew how to use it. He spent all that time as Supreme Chancellor. He understood the system. He knew how to manipulate it, and he knew also how to pass rules, regulations, laws, what have you, that made it so that he could leverage it even more. And I think that this is what winds up being frustrating in this sense. I'm not being a negative Nelly here, but this is the sort of thing where if I had enjoyed that first 3-episode arc more, I know they were going for tying it together where it's like the Republic was full of a bunch of bad operators as well. People who were of similar ilk to this commandant and this colonel. They're not unique. It's just a different system. They're the same guys, though. Whenever you get a large enough system in place, people like this are there, and it's I'm gonna mangle it. I forget who it was that said it specifically, but it was one of the founding fathers, quote unquote, of America, and it was a system is only as good as the people that are in it, or something like that. And the thing is, it underlines that people get caught up debating the systems, but it's really the people inside them that make it tolerable or intolerable. And I know I have enough of a memory of the next arc to know that really gets underlined in how insidious it really is. The way that the system gets leveraged by people who want to manipulate it or want to go on a power trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is this system really any different than the Republic? How is it different than the Republic? I think that's a fascinating sort of thing to study and look at. And that gets to that timelessness as well.
Well, and I think you can see the manipulation of the system in the sense of creating, the Republic begins as a representational government for planets to send representatives to. So they're representing actual people, right?
Mm-hmm.
The big change then comes in this system is when you allow then corporations to be represented. They don't represent people; they're representing a business, and so you're tying like this idea of the state and business in a way that is obviously incredibly dangerous, and so I think that's also a real key that we get here. And so, I mean, I think, your point is really well made in the sense that the Emperor, right, has just utilized all the things that were already in place, and he has just continued to tweak them further and further to his advantage.
Well, the thing that's really great is you and I, we spent nearly 400 episodes by this point talking about Star Wars. It's hard to believe.
Which is crazy.
Where did the time go? But we're sitting here, we're talking about this. And what's fascinating is this is one of those moments in Star Wars, this episode in particular, that's great because the Emperor really doesn't care about the particulars here. The Emperor himself is not directing wipe out the Aldani. it just creates more evil and sadness in the galaxy, which feeds the dark side. Cool. Great. He's not sitting there. He doesn't have to direct it to happen. It's just what happens. Feeds the dark side, gives more power, gives more opportunity for him to worry about the things that he really does worry about. Cheating death, living forever, exerting his will on everything.
Yes.
That's all he cares about. Now, those are big things to care about, and he's a bad dude, but he's not a micromanager. And that's the horrifying thing, is he doesn't need to micromanage.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yep.
Conversely, what I want to ask you is, we know that a lot of this is payoff of the buildup from the previous 2 episodes. We've got our big heist episode. Is there anything about this episode that doesn't work for you? What does not work for you? What could have been tightened up? What could have been removed? What could have been reorganized? What doesn't work for you here?
I mean, not to just be the fanboy, but I don't really think there's anything that doesn't work for me here. And a big part of that is what we've kind of talked about, in the sense that what makes this truly an interesting episode is that, we didn't just focus on the heist, and those machinations. What we focused on, which made it even more interesting, was these Imperial officers and their attitude towards these people, which clues us in to the very thing to which, as we talked about in the last episode, we get this idea that everybody has their own rebellion, and they're all fighting the rebellion for different reasons. And in that, we've seen this kind of growing sense then in different characters, specifically the character of Andor, right? Like this whole show is about building him into the character that we will see in Rogue One. And so what is it about his experience that's going to lead him to want to join this rebellion? And I think those experiences, even though he doesn't get, a firsthand view of what happened on Aldhani, in the sense of the way that the Empire is treating these people, he's very well aware of that's what's happening to these people, because that's what happened to him and his planet, right?
Right.
And so, again, I think what they do is that they kind of help continue to drive home the point that they were making in those first few episodes with Andor in his time on Kenari. And so, I don't know. I really just can't think of anything that didn't work for me, because, as we've, and I know you had frustration with, some of the pacing and some of that stuff with these episodes, and felt like we could have been tighter here, but this just, this kind of, I feel like the story, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. They knew exactly what needed to happen in this episode, and then they just do it. Yes. There isn't any extraneous material. And so I don't know, was there anything that you, like, because you can be more critical on that side, was there anything that didn't work for you?
I'm going to talk about 2 things real quick. I don't want to belabor any points here, and it's not going to go the way everybody thinks here in the audience. All right, so just settle down. Put your pitchforks down. Okay? So
you're saying this is okay. This isn't the Last Jedi. Okay, I was just making sure.
Oh,
this is not going to go the way you think.
Oh no. Anyway, two things. One is a thing where I wound up, like, strangely in my brain praising it for the fact that it would have been so easy, and this is such a maybe it's a weird thing, but when Vel and Kaz or Cinta,
Cinta
are in their little rock hideout, and the troopers come walking by, and one of the troopers stops to take a leak near them. This is where I'll give the director I don't know how the script was, but writing and directing go hand in hand. But Susanna White, it would have been so easy for a director to make it disgusting and have him relieve himself in such a way that it, like we see it leak on one of them and they have to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud the show for not going down that route.
Yeah,
It would have
agree.
been so easy. There were so many shows that would have indulged that disgusting nature.
Yeah,
I'm
great
glad
point.
it didn't.
Great point.
Number two, the thing that I struggled with a little bit at the end, both times, but I think I've come to a place where I'm okay with it and I get it, is Skeen. Finding out Skeen's actually a skeeve as opposed to a Skeen, and Andor shoots him.
Yeah.
And where I come to it with, and I want to get your thoughts on it as we wrap up, right? Is that it's important for him to suddenly reveal himself to be an untrustworthy character because Andor, Cassian, reacting as quickly and decisively as he does to shoot him, demonstrates that he has a limit to his amorality. That he is he's less amoral than he'd like to tell himself. There's still a code of honor for him. Yeah. And while it's unsettling that he shoots Skeen the way that he does, it is absolutely necessary. He's the guy that's sitting there. He knows he can't talk Skeen out of it. He knows that if he doesn't move, then Skeen's going to shoot him.
Yeah.
And so Cassian shot first.
Yeah.
To tap into another third rail in Star Wars discussion.
Yes.
And that's sort of where I come to, is like, I think it's actually a nice character building moment for Cassian because
I agree.
He is, we established there's a limit to how far he'll go. Now, does he violate that in Rogue One, therefore? I don't know.
So I was gonna ask you that question because I know that in Rogue One, one of the things that you kind of have an issue with is that moment where he shoots the guy at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And this was a way to reinforce that Andor, like you said, is less amoral than he would like to hope he could be because, he doesn't want to really care about anybody, but he can't help himself, which is... In some ways, it's like the more gritty version of the Han Solo arc.
Yeah.
And yet, at the same time, too, what I think that this does is that it shows us Andor's predilection for making sure that the mission goes forth with whatever means necessary. And if it means that I do need to kill somebody who's going to get in the way of that or jeopardize that mission, I'm going to have to be okay with that, which is then, when he gives the speech to Jin about like, you have no idea what I've given for this, which is what also plays into a very important speech we will get at the end of season 1 that comes from Luthen as well. And so what we're doing here is we're building this character who, much like Luthen, is going to be somebody who is willing to sacrifice his own self for this. And that's where I kind of come down on that scene with Skeen, is that it's kind of reinforcing a character trait that he's just going to continue to build, but that character trait is going to be one to which he utilizes for, I guess you could call it, for lack of a better term, really the greater good.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it makes sense at all, or.
Yeah, I totally plug into what you're saying. Like, I think that there is truth to that, specifically because he is in a position at the end of the episode to take everything, and instead he says, "I just want what you promised me, and then I'm out, and I'm not gonna take you for all." However much money, 80 million, not going to do that to you. Totally fine. Just give me what I'm owed and a ship. And he's going to pay the doctor for his ship. He's like, I'll pay you more than that ship's even worth. Yeah. So yeah, I think it winds up being a nice thing. I felt a little cheated at first. I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, why'd you do that? That character having that twist at the end of the episode, I didn't care for it. I was like, that felt forced. But then I realized that it did serve the larger character arc. So I'm okay with it. And I think that is sort of the thing that I had the biggest problem with the first time.
Sure.
I did not, and I know it's the nature of it, but maybe it's more about the fact that I wind up caring about the character. But the fact that they decided to kill the idealist, Karis, what was his name?
Yeah.
The fact that they decided to have him killed in such a cheap way, it bothered me. I didn't like it. I would have liked to see that kid survive to the point where Cassian shoots Skeen, and then the kid can say something as he's walking out the door. It's like, I knew it. I know that there's, like it felt like killing both Skeen and Karis was unnecessary. To have them both die, I get it. I know it's the nature of the beast, but I just wish they hadn't knocked them off, knocked off both of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can 100% understand what you're saying. And mainly because I agree with you. I really enjoy that character. I think, he's a really interesting character. And
he's more interesting than Cyril.
Yes. And I think part of that is that, what he drives at is just this idea of the philosophy of rebellion, and really digging into that is incredibly interesting to me. And I agree. I wish we had, more of it. I think it would just be nice, if he got more of a chance to kind of help, expound on these ideas. And yet, his death is, and I think you even mentioned this idea, right? His death is one of the things that's going to, I think, affect Andor, right? Especially when, he's handed the manifesto, and he's forced to take it. He doesn't want it, and yet Karis knows that if it sits with him long enough, he's not going to be able to sit this out forever. And so, I love that moment. I think it's, like you said, it's what makes his death so ridiculously bittersweet, in the episode, because, you really like this character. And yet, I also just love the way in which then Vel is like, no, you take this. He wanted you to have it. He insisted. And so if you're going to leave, you've got to take this with you too. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things too. It sounds like then for you, this might be, is this your favorite episode of the series so far?
Probably, yeah. I'd say that's safe. Yeah, this is my favorite one of the series so far. I think that great direction, well written, and even the cherry on top for me is getting to see the Galactic Senate again and see how the senators don't really care what's going on. I'm like, oh yay, I love this chamber. But like I said, I've always been a geek for the political stuff. But I do like the fact that it ends with Luthen excusing himself to the back where he can laugh.
Yeah.
And just be happy about what happened. I think that's the little cherry on the episode that works really well. So hands down, my favorite. Is it your favorite episode so far of the season?
I think absolutely. And that's not because, and this is not a detriment to any of the other episodes, I think, in the season. I think, honestly, for me, unlike you, this has been a great season of a show so far. I've really enjoyed. I think what this became, though, is that this episode just and part of this too, right? It's like this episode here is really the culmination of the whole first 6 episodes, right? And so it's almost like a mid-season finale. And they really, I think, nail it, right? I think they just make you like they bring home everything that they were doing, and it feels incredibly fulfilling, right? I get to the end of this episode and it's like, oh, this is what we've been doing the whole time. This is where we've been building to. And so I really like that. And I'm glad that, it worked for both of us. And I'm, I'm hopeful then that as we move forward, that'll just continue to happen for both of us. But John, if, people wanted to catch up with you and see what else got going on and maybe even just talk a little bit about Andor here and their thoughts on things, where would they find you?
Well, for the time being, when we're recording this episode, I'm taking a break from social media, so you can find me at kesseljunkie.com. Tossing stuff around would be fun. Go look through the archives. I probably said something controversial in the past. Knock yourself out, look for it, try to take me offline. I invite it. I don't care. You can also find me here on the network, co-hosting a show called House Lights with Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser, where we look at the work of directors. We have a time. It's a lot of fun. Recommend you go check it out. But I also spend some time over on the TFM network on a little show called The 602 Club. Every so often I pull a guest spot over there. It's the birthplace of aggressive negotiations, technically. And Matt, I think that's where people can find you. So where else can they find you out there online?
Yeah, I hope everybody will check that out. That would be great. But you can find me all over social media under the name Matt Rushing02. I'm also here on the network with a show called Owl Post. Did every single chapter of the Harry Potter series, one chapter at a time. You can also find me over on the TFM network, like John mentioned. Appreciate that. I am, of course, on the 602 Club, but I've got a lot of other great shows over there. A lot of great Star Trek talk with my friend Chris Jones as we're digging into a lot of those anniversary rewatches for the different shows that have had anniversaries recently in the last few years. So please check that out. But John, goodness, I think it's Nerf steak night over at the Jedi Temple. So I think it's time we close these negotiations.
Oh man, with a cup of Jawa juice, that is a perfect evening. So Master Rushing, negotiations are closed.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.